Thanks very much for the introduction, Christy, and thank you all for hanging around to hear our story about RareX. We're focusing on developing our Cummins Range rare earth project in the most sustainable way we can. So the two metals we're focusing on primarily are NdPr, neodymium, praseodymium. These are highly useful for their magnetic properties in high-end magnets around the world. I'll talk about the market towards the end of the presentation, but these are the things we're focusing on, and these are very, very useful metals. So our vision as a company, we were formed about 4 or 5 years ago. We saw a need to supply NdPr outside of China in a sustainable, ESG-friendly way. And that really guides our development strategy. We work very well with our local communities, and we're going to do this in a sustainable way. Quickly, just the corporate slide there. Modest market cap of 30 million, well funded with 6 in cash and shares, and we've done the bulk of our work this year. Share price is a bit low at the moment, but I think with a pending resource upgrade in March, we should be able to move that back up in the right direction. The board there, a few of you might be familiar with our chairman, John Young, who founded Pilbara Minerals, who's in the room. Worth talking about Cameron Henry, who founded Primero Group, now sits under NRW, so a very large processing expertise, and a good board and management below that. A good management team below that as well. Major shareholders, Simon Lee and myself with 4%. Board as well has probably got another couple of percent in the company as well. So the team, these are challenging projects, rare earths. You need a really good metallurgy team on staff. We've got 2 of the best, we feel, in Gavin Beer and Damien Krebs. Gavin Beer's worked on most projects around the world, and Damien Krebs has spent the last 12 years developing the flow sheet for Greenland Minerals. Guy Moulang, my head of exploration, when he came to this project 5 years, he probably didn't know a lot about rare earths, but now he knows a hell of a lot, so I'm backing him in to grow this resource and find other deposits around Australia. Michael Prassis, head of corporate development, he's worked at Solvay, Peak Resources, so has experience in selling the stuff we're trying to produce. And James Durrant, very good project manager, he's the one overseeing the development of this project. So Cummins Range, look, we've recently put out a scoping study that showed some really strong financials, but that was just on our historic resource from 2021. That's a 20 million tonne resource. Located in Western Australia, don't need to tell you how good a jurisdiction that is to develop mines, but it's very, very good. We're getting on with our pre-feasibility, but it hasn't stopped us drilling this year, and we're pending with a very large resource upgrade in the coming months. Where the project is, it's in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, so it's a carbonatite project. Carbonatites are very voluminous projects. Just look at Linus's Mount Weld. All the big rare earth projects that are developed are carbonatite projects, and we've got one of 2 mineralised carbonatites in Australia, the other one being Mount Weld. Our plan to develop this project is to split the mine site from the refinery. So refinery at the the beneficiation plant at the mine site just south of Halls Creek, off the Tanami Road, which fortuitously is being sealed as we speak. They've been talking about sealing that road for 20 years, but they're finally underway. I've seen them with the machinery up there in the last couple of weeks. So it'll take 5 years to seal, but we only need about the first 100 kilometres sealed, so should be past our mine site within a year or 2. So a 500,000 tonne beneficiation circuit on site, producing phosphate and rare earth interim products. Phosphate, direct sales out through Wyndham, and further refining of the rare earth projects, rare earth minerals in Wyndham into a rare earth carbonate. I sort of touched on the mine site, but there's a photo of it. Very nice country, just got burned this year, so it's all open for exploration. Very low strip ratio from surface, free dig, strip ratio of almost 2 to 1. 500,000 tonne per annum float circuit, producing 36,000 tonnes of rare earth rich concentrate for trucking up to Wyndham, and 130,000 tonnes of phosphate at good grade, which we can sell into the fertiliser market as well. So the resource there that we have is 18.8 million tonnes. That's mostly indicated, which has allowed us to put out our scoping study. We have an exploration target in place, but we see the resource upgrade will be very much larger than that. We've got really wide widths of modest grade rare earths and phosphate, which is pushing us more towards a 100 million tonne deposit. Probably not at quite those grades, but it'll be a very, very large project in the coming year. The Port of Wyndham. Wyndham is actually the most active port in the north. It's more active than Darwin. Does need a little bit of investment, but it's put out a couple of million tonnes of iron ore out of there for the last 5 to 10 years. It takes nickel concentrates out from the Savannah mine. We plan to put a refinery in there and tapping into the Lake Argyle hydro scheme as well, so very cheap, clean source of power to produce our mixed rare earth carbonate. So the scoping study we put out in September, this was on the historic resource of only 20 million tonnes, so expect these numbers to change again as we grow our resource. But even on what we have, we've got some pretty compelling economics there. Modest capex for a rare earth project of 430 million. Good return on investment of 2.8 years. A relatively modest mine life at this point in time, 12 to 13 years, but we'll grow that out to 20, 30, 40 years. One of the benefits of having a phosphate byproduct stream is we can drive our cash costs down very low, and we're talking about $6 a kilo AUD. So compared to our basket price of about $30 a kilo, the margins are really there for us. And a positive NPV and a positive IRR as well. So the exploration, as I mentioned, this is the current resource, just in that top little square up there. We've been drilling deep holes all through the carbonatite, extending it out to the northeast as well. All these holes are getting good mineralisation. We're getting widths of 400 or 500 metres at 4 to 5% phosphate and 0.4 to 0.5% TREO, including some much higher grade TREOs within that. So you can see how we expect to change the tonnage in this project very quickly. Marching out this way as well, we seem to have most of our rare earth mineralisation clustering on this carbonatite dike. Then we have a phosphate dike here, and we get some really quite specky widths of phosphate as well out here, with attendant TREO as well. And these holes out here, nothing's closed it off in that direction yet, so I dare say we'll be back out there drilling it again next year. What's next? Look, assays turnaround have been a challenge this year for us to maintain momentum in news flow, but they're all pending now. We've probably put out about a third of our results so far, which have all been good, and expect them to be more of the same and probably some better ones amongst it. We'll get all those results back into December and January ahead of a major resource upgrade in March. Outside of this main area, the whole carbonatite is still open for exploration, and that's where we're going to turn our attention to next year, is elsewhere in this carbonatite and also further afield where we think there might be other carbonatites within our tenement package. So all that drilling and all that work we've been doing for the last couple of years, look, we're already a large rare earth deposit in terms of size and grade within Australia, probably not on a global scale, but as we move towards that, this resource upgrade, I think we'll really put this project on the map globally, and we should be able to attract the attention that we need to attract the partners in to build this project with this resource upgrade. So that's the project. I'll just touch on the demand for NdPr. You're probably all quite familiar with the lithium story and the boom we've seen there. Look, it's basically the same story. NdPr for use in magnets. Wherever you have a lithium battery, you've probably got a rare earth permanent magnet motor nearby. All your EVs, all your Teslas, they use these metals. Wind farms as well. All the wind farms around the world, they need to be really efficient, long-lived and not break down. So we use NdFeB magnets in those, 200 kilos in every megawatt of wind turbine capacity. In this sector, while it will never be quite as large as solar, it will take a large chunk of the renewable energy generation capacity. So it's probably the sleeper in the pack is this wind turbine capacity. I mentioned electric vehicles, but in every electric vehicle there's about a kilo of NdPr oxide, and you've probably seen a number of graphs on the growth in electric vehicle sales over the day today. But 90% of all these motors are made with NdPr. The induction motors, while they work, they're not as compact and they're not as powerful. So NdPr motors are the way to go. So pricing, look, you hear a bit about basket pricing in rare earths. Our basket is about the same as Linus's. We've got about 20% NdPr. They've got about 25% NdPr. We've got just under 1% dysprosium and terbium, which are also very useful metals. That's about the same as Linus as well. Pricing for these things, it's hard to get a true look through on pricing, but they are published in the Shanghai Metals Exchange. We see NdPr rocket up to $175 a kilo at some stage during this year. We're back at about $90 to $100 a kilo. It's still a very, very good price. We run our scenarios on about $100 to $105 a kilo, so all our study work is still valid at these prices. There are forecasters out there that have targets of 200. I've seen people running their feasibilities at 200 a kilo. They may well be right, but we're going to run them at about $100 a kilo because that's where we see it definitely sustainable long term. So what's next for RareX? It's been a busy couple of years since we picked up this project, about 3-4 years ago now. We started not knowing much about rare earths other than we wanted to be in rare earths. We've taught ourselves a hell of a lot over the journey. We've turned Cummins Range into a significant project in my view. We're going through all the permitting steps that we need to. Native title negotiations are well underway. We'll have a mining lease in place by the middle of next year. We have a very much larger resource. Metallurgy is ongoing. Rare earth metallurgy is not easy, but we're getting to the bottom of it and we will get there next year. The phosphate has given us a nice little side business that we can get going quickly. And this all feeds into a feasibility and construction commencing in 2025 and operations out in 2026. So in summary, the investment proposition, we think we're in the right sector. We've all seen the success of lithium companies. We think rare earth companies are going to do the same thing. Very, very useful stuff. Prices are good. We're in the right jurisdiction. We've got a modest resource. It's about to become a very large resource. Very cheap EV in my view at about $25 million EV compared to some of our peers. And we've got the right team to deliver on this. So watch this space. I think it's going to be a very exciting 2023 for us. And thanks for listening, and I might see you around the booth.